Hello, and welcome to Black Marriage Therapy, BMT. Here we become students of marriage in order to create healthy, long lasting relationships. I'm your host, Junior Smith. In today's episode, we discuss how to heal men's relationship to anger. Today, we're exploring the topic of men's anger. And this is a great conversation that I had with Dr. Jared Cadu. And we went into a little bit more than just anger because anger is one emotion and is, I think, the emotion that men are allowed to feel the most. However, it's not the only emotion that we have. Men can register all the emotions that God's given us, right? Men and women, we register all of them: shame, embarrassment, joy, anticipation, all of them. But I think anger is the one that men would say is most easily identifiable. So we talk a little bit more about deeper aspects of what anger could really be besides just anger, and why men do have a hard time identifying other emotions besides just anger. It's a really good conversation, super wholesome. I think you guys will like it. If you've been enjoying the content, please follow us on Instagram at Black Marriage Therapy, rate us on your podcast platform, and please share your favorite episode with a friend. We also have a unique opportunity for you to support this podcast monthly. All you have to do is go to our show notes and click the link to support this podcast. For as little as 99 cents per month, you can partner with us to continue to provide you with high quality content. Without further ado, let's get into today's topic. Hello, everybody. I have our special guest here, Dr. Jared Cadu, and I'm going to have him introduce himself in a little bit. First, I want to talk about how important this subject is for me. Healing your relationship with your anger. It's something that I had to learn specifically because I did not have a good relationship with my anger or with any of my emotions, period. I believe the way emotions have been taught to men is just limiting, is stifling the way we teach men emotions, stifling for men and women. It was stifling for me and my wife. I was emotionally constipated. That's how I feel. And the only way I knew I could express myself is through anger. I knew that would be socially acceptable. However, I resisted because I watched someone else use their anger incorrectly, namely my father. So I didn't want to show any anger. I resisted it and eventually imploded. And some men, they explode and they don't rein in any of their anger. So that's why this episode is so important to me, because until I healed my relationship with my anger, my relationship was doing a nosedive, honestly, not only with my wife, but with myself and any other relationship I had. It was terrible. So the purpose of today's message is so we can learn how to express anger so we can become better at using it rather than ignoring it or hurting the ones we love. That's the big takeaway. So I have Dr. Jared Cadu here with me. This is our second time speaking on this podcast. Hopefully we can do 3, 4 more. I mean, I would love to, but
Yeah.
I want Dr. Jared Cadu, go ahead and introduce yourself before I ask the first question.
Yes. So my name is Dr. Jared Cadu. I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. But I would say the main thing I do is that my wife and I, we run a company called Authentic Marriages that we're the co-founders of. And so Authentic Marriages is a company that exists to help marriages, especially in the Black community, to thrive. And we've been doing this since 2020. And so we do coaching groups, online workshops, retreats, international retreats. So we're all just about investing back in the Black community and just helping couples to get the tools, the really useful tools, not platitudes or truisms, but real useful tools that could actually advance their marriage to that next level.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm talking to the right person here. Okay, so I had this weird epiphany in the kitchen today. I looked over to my left and I saw him standing there and I said, God, what is that roach doing right there? Like, what's going on? I was in the kitchen.
Hey, that's what roaches do, man. They just show up. It's like, why are you here?
That was the question. I said, why are you here? And so I was like, God, why? I went existential. I said, why'd you make these roaches? Like, what's the point? I went online, I researched. I was like, there has to be a good side to
Right.
roaches. Everything has a good side. And I found out that they recycle like everything. And they help us have like a rich soil. Like they decompose and recycle everything. Right. So next time we see a roach in the kitchen, you gotta salute, you gotta respect.
Hey, hey, can I salute them outside of the house? And I'd be like, what? I think I want you recycling in the soil. In the
Exactly.
soil, not in my house.
So I had that thought, and that's literally what inspired the next question because everything has a good side. Could you tell me what could potentially be the good side to anger?
Oh man, that is a great question because oftentimes we do talk about anger in a very negative way, and it's perceived as a negative emotion oftentimes. So that's a great question because I think that's one of the reasons why we don't know what to do with it. Because I think anger in of itself is not good or bad. It just is what it is. It's an emotion like every other emotion God gave us. But in terms of the good things it can do, anger does a lot of good things. They can a lot of times when we see injustices being done, either to ourselves or people we care about, or just somebody this you just see, you may not even know them, but you see something wrong happening to them, something evil, injustice of some kind. Anger is the thing that gets you activated to do something about it, right? And so we need our anger. Like anger is so important. It keeps us safe in unsafe situations. It keeps our loved ones safe in unsafe situations. So we both have kids. And if somebody was doing something to one of our
Yeah,
kids, like it's the anger that's going to get you up and be like, hey, what's going on here? And to protect our kids, right? So I think anger is one of those emotions that gets a bad rap because we oftentimes think about it in a negative way, but we need our anger. God gave us our anger to help keep us safe and to help keep other people safe. But when your anger gets flowing, your energy in your body goes up, right? Because it's preparing you to do something that you need to do. Usually you shouldn't be sitting down with your anger. Usually you need to be doing something with your anger. And so that's what happens. There's chemicals that flow in our brain that allows us to focus on the situation and allows us to put everything else to the side so we can focus on what the problem is and do something about it, right? So it's a powerful emotion and it's a necessary emotion.
I agree with you. I think it's very powerful and it gets you active. Most
Yes.
definitely. And so I like that. We can't just throw away the baby with the bathwater and demonize anger. There's a role for it. There's a reason why we get angry, why that's in our biology. What would be some of the common causes for anger in men? And this can be outside of the context of marriages and also within the context of marriage.
Right. And so it's not even so much the causes of anger, it's like where does it show up? Right. Because the causes of anger is us being humans. So like us being humans means anger comes with the picture, right? So where does it show up for men? And you mentioned this earlier. For a lot of us as men, we have been trained by society that anger is one of the few emotions that men can access and still be considered a man, right? So where does it show up then? So anger shows up in situations where stereotypically a man feels disrespected. So that could be with one of his homies, that could be with his wife, that could be at work, whatever it is. Anger shows up when we feel disrespected. Anger shows up when we're in situations where we feel powerless, where we feel like we can't do something about a situation. It boils up our anger. We're like, we feel powerless. We feel like, man, I can't do anything here. And that is so like, in many ways, unfortunately, because of how we view it as a society, in many ways, emasculating, where we don't feel like a man. So I feel angry. I'm raging against that feeling of just feeling like, man, I'm not even a man. I can't do anything about this situation, right?
Yeah,
And in anger can also show up, uninterestingly, whenever we are made to feel other emotions that we don't want to feel,
that's
right?
good.
Yeah. And that happens a lot in relationships, right? And so, for example, we talk a lot about this in our coaching group. For example, when men, stereotypically, it's not always men, but men, a lot of times when their wives are crying, right, we kind of get irritated. And I've said that irritation is in the solar system of anger. Like it may not be like what you think about as anger, but it's a form of anger,
Mm.
right? It's in that solar system. And we get irritated because oftentimes we define ourselves as men as our ability to do things well, especially when it comes to our spouse to make them feel good. And so if our wife is crying,
Yeah.
that means I'm failing as a man,
Yeah.
right? And so now I'm frustrated after a while because let's say I'm trying to make you stop crying by making you feel better, whatever, it's not working and you're still crying, right? Then now I'm like, I'm doing everything I can do to make you feel good and you're not feeling better. Now I start to get frustrated at you because your tears make me feel less than.
Hmm.
And so my irritation starts to rise.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that emotion, I can't deal with your tears. I can't deal with your sadness.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That was powerful. I like those three ways angers can show up, especially the last one, right? Almost as an a cover up emotion for a different emotion. A lot of times for me, it's embarrassment,
Yes.
right? I can't really tell you I'm embarrassed. The first thing I'll say is I'm angry. But it took a lot of time to be able to go through and properly identify the emotions that I'm feeling, secondary emotions, the real emotions that anger is trying to hide. Okay, this is good. So you talked about the social factors that contribute to men displaying anger, like that being the only socially acceptable emotion they can show. A secondary question to that: are there any biological factors that make men more prone to anger compared to
Yeah.
women? Or no.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this kind of apply to men and women, but some people temperamentally just get angry more easily.
Mm.
And literally, that's just within their DNA. They just get more angry more easily. Their fuse is shorter than other people's
Mm.
fuses. Point blank. They didn't do it. They didn't cause it to be that way. That's just who they are because anger occurs through a complex cascade of neurochemicals flowing in our brain that manifests in anger, right? And so where do the neurochemicals come from? How are they produced? Well, they're produced based on what's in our DNA. Our DNA has the coding for those things. And so for some people, even as babies, they will show when they cry, they'll cry angry, right? You notice some kids cry angry,
Yeah,
in
for
certain situations,
sure. Yeah, I
you
didn't.
know?
That's so interesting you say that because my daughter, my first daughter, is a rule
Yes.
follower. My second daughter is a thug. I'm telling you straight up, man. Like we call it Jamaican rage. It's like I didn't know that could be passed down, but it feels like it, man. It feels like she doesn't play games.
Right. Yes. I'm not here for it. I'm not the one to be tried. Right.
Since she was like 1 years old, she's been putting her hands on people, and she's been
That's
putting her hands on people, and I just don't know where. I mean, I feel like it came from my side of the family, honestly speaking.
right. They'll talk about the fact like anger runs in their family,
Uh huh.
right?
Uh
And
huh.
some of that is socialized, but I do think some of that is biological.
Yeah.
And I really do think, I mean, it's complex, but I do think for some people, really, like in their genes, they're just more likely to get angry.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's other things too, right? So there's day-to-day things, lack of sleep,
Yeah.
stress,
Yes.
frustration, lack of exercise even makes you more irritable, right? Nutrition, if you're not eating right and you're moody, that's going to cause you to be more likely to get angry.
Yes, you're right. Everything that we do in our life affects us. And I don't know why sometimes we think we can disconnect from so many things and operate the same way, which means we feel like we can not get enough sleep and be the same person, not eat the right food and be the same person,
Mm-hmm.
right? We feel like we can not get out there in nature or not associate with community and still be the same person. But
Yes.
the way we've
Yeah.
been wired is that we need the community, we need the right nutrition, we need the right sleep.
Yes.
You need the right sleep. You have to get the sleep, man. It just throws everything off. Your memory's not working if you don't have the right sleep. Your
Mm-hmm.
emotions are out of whack. Everything and prolonged periods of time. Even you mentioned exercise. The body was mentioned to profit off of exercise, and so yeah, man, it's just crazy that we've been taught the other way around. A person who doesn't provide the things that they need to their body and still soldiers on is praised, but the person who takes the time to say, "Hey, I'm not going to work 24 hours,"
Yeah.
the person that says, "Hey, I'm going to take this break. I'm going to prioritize this," they're not
Exactly.
seen as hungry enough.
Yeah, because our society prioritizes productivity, right? Like that is one of the idols of America is productivity. So like how much money are you making? How many followers do you have? All of these different kinds of things. And so taking care of yourself does not factor into that. It's like, well, if you're taking care of yourself, then you can't be productive, right?
I
And it and it's a crazy paradigm because one, it's a lie, but also two, it's highly destructive to everyone who whenever you allow yourself to get into that way of thinking, it destroys you and it destroys your relationships.
I want to know if there's anything else I need to understand about anger.
Well, one other thing I would mention as well is that testosterone, which men and women have, right?
Yes.
Well, men and a lot of people don't realize that men and women have testosterone. It's that men just have a lot more of it
Yes.
comparatively, and typically can also be a mediator of anger.
No.
And so that's why whenever you see, especially anger and aggression. So like teenage boys, you will see anger and aggression kind of showing up in a way that it wasn't before when they were preteens or in elementary school, right? And the reason for that is because their testosterone is starting to build up because they're going through those natural changes. And that testosterone makes you more prone to anger, make you more prone to aggression, right? And the testosterone doesn't go away as an adult. It's still there. It starts to go down when you get older, but it's still there. It's just that when we become older, our frontal lobes are fully online to kind of control and mediate and make
Oh,
it
wow.
dealing with that aggression in the right way and not letting out to the wrong people or in the wrong intensities and stuff like that. But before that, it's like the testosterone is pushing you more quick. That's why one of the reasons why men are more prone to aggression compared to women.
Man, I love the fact that you said that. I just realized we've just been doing it wrong. We've been celebrating the easy answer rather than trying to challenge men because there must be a reason why teenage boys start developing all this testosterone. There must be a reason why they start gathering all of this testosterone that brings about anger and aggression. And I think it's to get things done. I think it's to be movers and shakers and to be have passion.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned like the brain being fully developed at 21, your frontal lobe, that's supposed to come in and help you use the anger, temper it, right? Like a
Yes.
person forging a sword in the fire, you're supposed to be making use of the anger. But in reality, I see society, men are being praised for pure aggression, just pure anger, just
Being equated with manhood, right?
it is. We're equating not the restructuring of anger and the utilization of anger. We're talking about raw anger is being associated with being a good businessman, aggression. Now we're disrespecting our women. Now we are set claiming and doing all this other stuff with our aggression
Exactly.
and our anger when we were supposed to, it was supposed to be the fire in our bellies that we're supposed to tame and know when to use, right? And I want to talk more about that. So let me ask one more question. We can move on to dealing with the anger, okay?
Sure.
Because we I think we did a good job of discussing it. How can men recognize the early signs of anger before it escalates?
Great question. And I think the key word there is the recognition, right? Because I think a lot of times it's interesting. And sometimes when we're working with couples, my wife and I, we'll hear women say that their husbands seem either they don't seem to have any emotion or they
Yeah.
seem or they seem irritable all the time, right? And the man is like, what? Like irritable all the time? What are you talking about? Right? The way I look at it is like lava and magma, right? So lava is what comes out of the volcano, right? But the magma is what is flowing underneath the surface of the ground. And without the magma shooting up through the volcano as lava, you won't get the lava. And so a lot of times we pay attention to the flow of the lava coming out of the volcano and the explosive flow. It's like that's what we're paying attention to. But what we really need to know is what's going on underneath, right? Like where is this coming from, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
the only way we can do that as men is that we have to become better at understanding our emotions. But before that, we have to become better at registering our emotions. Like how good are we at registering how we're feeling in any given moment? If you ask most men, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
I know. Nothing. I'm not really feeling anything. I feel fine. Like, give me something other than fine. I don't really got anything for you. Like it's really like this disconnection from our emotions. And so it's something that's been programmed into us that, hey, if you're a man, these are the things you can do. You can be briefly happy at times. You can be angry and you can feel nothing. Those are your options.
What?
Those are your options as a man. Is that those are the three things most men are given and programmed into
Well,
growing up in their
listen,
homes.
I'd rather feel angry just so I could feel something because if you're telling me I could be angry all the time, that means I'm feeling all the time. So that's a win for me because you said only brief moments of happiness. And that's right. A man who's always smiling happy, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's like, dude, like, why are you always so happy?
Why are you always so
And
happy? Why?
even the woman will be like, man, that dude is kind of sus, right? Like he's always smiling and laughing and all that kind of like, why you got to laugh all the time, right? And so
Yes.
it's really unhealthy. It breaks our humanity. And so when we're programmed in that way, it really makes it more difficult, therefore, to really understand what's going on with ourselves because a lot of times we turn off our senses. And so we don't know how we're even feeling. So sometimes we can be angry and not even know it.
Wow. Yeah. No, of course. We could be angry and not know it for sure. And then that's why people say, I don't even know where that rage came from. I don't even know. I can't tell you why I did that.
Exactly. It came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. It didn't come out of nowhere. It was on the surface.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's get to dealing with anger and start with the $1 million question. Some effective strategies for men to manage their anger in the moment and then and beyond. Because if you feel yourself getting hot, you feel yourself getting angry, that's an easy emotion to recognize. But I think the next steps, what comes after, is what's most important. Like you said, the anger is a human emotion. And to be honest with you, that's the part I struggle with. Just allow myself to feel it. So I'm on the other side where
Like most of us, yeah.
that's the side that I'm on. It's like, hey, I'm supposed to have this emotion. So what are some
Yeah.
strategies to manage that?
So I think we have, and you mentioned this earlier on, anger is oftentimes a secondary emotion. It's usually not the first thing that comes out of our brain. It's the first thing we may register that comes out of our brain, but it's oftentimes not the first thing that comes out. Usually there's a primary emotion. So when we think about primary and secondary emotions is usually what we can feel at all times or what people around us see from us. But primary emotions are emotions that we oftentimes, it goes by in a nanosecond, literally. So
Oh.
things like sadness, shame, which is a big
Hmm.
one, feeling abandoned, things along those lines. Those things are the things that will cause anger to shoot up out of nowhere, supposedly. And
Hmm.
so when we're in situations, for example, let me give you an example.
Hmm.
So you are doing something simple as, okay, you're just home, you're just chilling, you're the dude, you're at home, you're just chilling, long day at work, whatever like that. And then your wife comes up to you and it's just like, hey, did you remember to pay this bill?
Hmm.
Right? And in your mind, you're like, of course, yeah, I did. Like, and a part of you is irritated when you say that. Like, yeah, of course, yeah, I did, right? Why are you irritated? A lot of the times in those situations with men, what's the emotion that comes up for men is you are questioning my ability to do things as a man in this house,
Yeah.
right? And what that taps into is primary emotions like shame. Because if I can't do the simple things of being able to help to run this house, then I'm not really even a man. And that is one of the most devastating feelings you can have. No, you're not thinking any of that. You're not feeling all of that in that moment, but that's where it's coming from.
Man.
Because it's the same thing like the classic example of, oh, why can't men take directions? Right, right. Like their wife is like, no, we made the wrong turn. Why is it so hard for a lot of men to deal with that kind of stuff? It's the same stuff because my ability to do things effectively defines me as a man.
Why we have to go there automatically? Why that's not fair. Why we couldn't start with, oh man, maybe I just forgot. Why we have to automatically tie it to our identity as a man? Because then any little thing that happens, oh, you question me as a man.
Yeah,
We
yes.
can't live like
Or you're
that.
being disrespectful, right? One of the biggest complaints we see in society is men thinking that women are being disrespectful.
Okay, so could this be coming from pride? Because that's the only answer I can think of. Like, if somebody asks you a question and it makes you feel like they're disrespecting you, it's because you believe they don't have the position to ask you in the first place. So they say, hey, is the sky blue? And you're like, how dare you ask me that question? It's not the question, it's the fact that you believe they don't have a leg to stand on to even ask you that question.
Exactly. Sometimes it's pride, but a lot of the times what we think is pride, we oftentimes talk about men being egotistical or whatever, and we think about it in a very negative way. A lot of times it may not even be pride, right? A lot of times in our relationships, it's you're running away from shame. You're running away from shame. Listen, man, listen.
Man, this thing is getting too deep. The, so we get prideful because of the shame. It's too much.
And shame is one of the most powerful emotions that exist on the planet. It is so powerful.
But it's wearing so many different faces. How can you call it shame? Because you look angry. I think you're egotistical, but the truth is I'm actually ashamed of myself. You don't look ashamed of yourself.
You don't look exactly.
You don't look ashamed.
And you don't even feel the shame because you have to slow down and really ask. You have to be very introspective. Like if I feel bad or frustrated that my wife is asking me, did I pay this bill? I have to really sit down with myself and really ask myself, why is this really bothering me? Because oftentimes we project our anger onto other people. We'll say, what you did made me angry. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll say this once and I'll say it twice. There is nothing anyone else can do to make you feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. Like no one can make you feel a certain way.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So no, obviously there are certain things that if somebody did, we could understand why it made you feel that way.
Yes.
No one can make you, no one is getting inside of your body.
Yes.
This is your body. No one is climbing in through your mouth and getting into your brain and messing around. Like, this is your body. Your reactions are depending on your body.
Man, that's
what they're doing.
That's so hard to separate. I'm sorry. I mean, even especially for a man, because all of my emotions is really just dependent on your actions. Like, I'm not responsible for my emotion. I haven't been taught. I've been trained. The way that emotional intelligence has been trained to men is stifling, limited. You said you can get brief moments of happiness, rage, or nothing.
Or nothing.
So I'm taking the anger every time because I don't want to feel nothing, and I don't want people to think I'm weird because I'm happy. So this is ridiculous because, man,
you're dehumanized, right? So what it turns you into is a person who's not a person. It turns you into a human who's not a human. You're no longer a human being when you can't be afforded the right to express and to experience all of your emotions.
Okay, I have this question for you. Why does it seem like men are doing so well with the limited emotions we provide them? Because they have money and they have wives and kids and they have cars, but they're not human. They're hollow.
Yes.
Is it that we're just not seeing the sadness? Because eventually we do see sometimes men fall from grace. No, we see that a lot. Wait a minute.
A lot.
I think I answered my own question. I answered my own question.
Yes. 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 And you see it all the time, right? You see it all the time. These powerful men being called out for those crazy behavior when behind the scenes. It's just like, how is somebody this powerful acting in such a seemingly, honestly incompetent way? Because why would you do that? Because you are sabotaging everything you built anyway in acting like the fool, right? Why are you doing that? Well, because these men, here's the thing. You ask a question, how can these men be so successful with such limited access to their emotions? The reason why is that you don't need a lot to be productive. You don't need a lot of emotions to be productive.
Okay.
You could be highly productive with very little emotions.
Okay. You're right.
Now, it's those concrete places of our life that we glorify in our society. That's why we think of these people as being great men. So let's think about the definition of what is a great man in our society. What does it mean to be a great man in our society? What comes to mind? We usually think about what? Powerful rich men.
Money, power, respect.
Money, power, respect, right? So that's the definition of a good as a good man. And to me, I think that is such a absurd and just frankly just ridiculous way of thinking about manhood. What was Jesus's net worth when he left Earth?
What? Yo, I've never thought about. Whoa, hold up. So he's a bad man. He's not a good man because he has no net
By
worth.
our definitions, I mean, he would be like
He
a
had
whole,
no money, and he gave away his power,
yes,
and the respect was low too because he
yes. I
crucified
mean,
the man like a criminal between two thieves.
right. See, so by our metrics, this would not be a man to respect. This would be a man to be pitied at best, right? So when you think about that now, you put yourself in a place where the soft things that we consider soft things, not the concrete things we build our society, and the soft things like relationships and your well-being are oftentimes not things that are factored into what kind of man you are. Let me give you one of the things that when you think about it, like when you think about what ails our society, right? Especially when it comes to men, one of the things that's going on with men now, a lot of men are listless. They don't know what to do with their lives. They're kind of aimless. A lot of men, this is happening to a lot of men. And I really believe one of the big reasons for that is that because women now are having increasing agency for themselves, the way we have defined ourselves as men by our productivity is now been taken away. So what you're seeing is a lot of aimless, angry young men because they feel like I have nothing, right? And so their anger is coming up because they don't feel like they have anything for themselves because it's been taken away from them because society has moved on. And now they're in a place where it's like the things that made me a man are no longer just definitional to me as a man,
Wow. I
which
can
means I have nothing.
Man, the way you laid that out was perfect. I can clearly see how having the wrong definition of manhood, having the wrong identity, would just set you up for failure. Okay, so let's talk about solutions because
Right, right,
you went deep and I love it. I love it because I think the answer would be reframing our whole understanding.
yeah.
I know we wanted a bite-sized answer, but it's not really bite-sized. I don't oh,
Okay.
so how can we reframe our understanding of masculinity to include the reframing of anger, emotions?
Right. Man, listen, it's not an easy thing because I think firstly, we really have to start recognizing what's been done to us, right? So there's been a programming that has happened for a long time that in certain ways served us, but in many ways is increasingly taking from us, right? And what does it mean to be a man? Like, what does it mean to be a man? And especially if you're a Christian, what does it really mean to be a good Christian man? Right? And I think we have to then think about what does society say about manhood and how does that reflect or how does that line up with what we know from the Bible, what we know from the truth of what manhood is, and understanding that manhood is not what you can produce. Manhood is not about how much dollars you have in your bank account or how many followers you have online or whatever metrics of dominance you're looking at. It goes far beyond that. As men, we are supposed to be leaders of our home. We're supposed to be the caretakers of our home. We're strength comes from your ability to protect those around you.
Mm.
And I'm not talking about physically alone. Like, yes, physically, yes. If somebody approaches my family, I'm going to step up, do whatever I need to do. And I may or may not be successful, but I'm going to do my best to protect my family, right? But that is one of the things that's highly unlikely to happen anyway. So outside of that, if it's just talking about physically protecting my family, then okay, cool. But that's not going to happen almost 99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
What else you got? Right? What else you got? Well, what else we got is how am I taking care of my family emotionally? How am I protecting my kids? How am I protecting my wife? How am I pouring into my kids? How am I pouring into my wife? How am I pouring into other men around me who I know are struggling? Like, manhood is about protecting the people around you And most of it is emotionally and spiritually protecting the
Oh
people.
man, I'm so mad you said that because I can see clearly we've abdicated our rights to like 90% of what real protection looks like. And it's just so upsetting because to find out that so much is going undone in the relationship and a man could really feel he's doing his best because that's what you told him. Like,
Yeah.
like I could really feel like I'm really protecting my family because I got a gun and a big fence, but I'm not nurturing my daughter's gift for this or my wife's ambition for that. Like I'm not protecting
Yes.
her I'm actually tearing them down. Like,
Yeah.
I'm actually coming home from being a man. I'm so much of a man. So I just yell. And then when I yell, like you said, I just think, oh, well, I was angry. Not taking the time to slow down and think, was that shame?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna you will never have a man slow down that much to think because we're uncomfortable with our thoughts because we're trained not to think. We're trained to produce. You act, you don't
Exactly.
think.
Exactly.
And it's upsetting to see the whole game laid out in front of me like that. Because if we keep going the way we're going,
Yes.
we're going to be aimless producers of whatever they want us to produce. Like
Just
they'll
fighting.
trick us into believing we're successful. In reality, we are building their master plan. We're cogs in a machine
Exactly.
who feel liberated. We
Yeah.
feel free, but we're in our own little cages
Yeah. We
that
put
we climbed into.
we climb into those cages. We put the shackles on ourselves, right? We put those shackles on a wrist, and we put it on ourselves in the name of what we thought was liberation of being this masculine alpha male. The other thing I will say is this: is that being a man is about protecting those around you, but being a man also means you are highly skilled, or you're growing. Rather, I should say this way: you have a desire and are putting in work in growing your ability to understand your vulnerabilities, meaning the things that you struggle with, and being okay with not being okay. Being okay with knowing that, man, like I got some blind spots in my life that I can't even see, and I need other people to help pour into me. Understanding that interdependence gets you much further as a man than independence, right? So community has to be there as
Has
well.
to be there. Has to be there.
No, this whole alpha one man. I mean, the
Yeah.
tropes are in every movie. Like you got what John Wick 1 through 4 is all about one dude that's killing a whole bunch of
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
right? With almost no assistance. And it's like, and he barely talks, he barely shows emotions. It's like that's the man. It's like it looks cool on TV,
Yeah.
but in reality, that is an incredibly dangerous person because that person is disconnected from anybody around him. And in real life, he'll get torn down in an instant. And even if he is one of those few super successful people that have made it without anybody's help, you're also alone.
And yeah, and you'll tear yourself down. How about
And
that? How about that? Because we're created to be in community. And the sad thing is I did research on men having other men to talk to, and it's slim. It's a slim chance that you have another man
Another man.
comfortable telling everything.
I know that for myself. And and a part of it is like I know better, and it's still something I struggle with
Yeah.
because I think I'm still working on the deprogramming, right? Because
Yeah.
the programming is very, very powerful, but it's also extremely insidious, meaning that you're not seeing when you're being programmed into thinking what manhood looks like. And so when you're not aware of what programming is happening to you, you don't realize all of the chains of commands that have been put into your head in terms of the things you need to be executing as a man that is blocking you from actually finding real manhood.
Man, I did not think our conversation would go here. The rest of my questions are irrelevant because I'm going to have to talk with the dome because
Right.
my answer was not reframed the way we think. It wasn't. It was breathing techniques and just deal with just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
But you have brought us back to the magma and brought us all the way down to the deepest, scariest emotions. And so we have to get connected with identifying those emotions and our sensitive side
Exactly.
in order to be able to uproot this thing from the ground up. I'm talking about the leaves and the
Yeah,
bushes, and you're talking about the roots.
exactly.
And I appreciate that answer. I really do. I appreciate that answer. The only question I can see here to ask you that kind of relates to the anger is, let's talk about repair. How can couples work together to repair or rebuild trust after conflict? And I know this is something that was helpful for me because the only time I would express my anger, it would come out raw. And
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
my wife told me that is not a proper use of anger. And I felt like, man, I just can never have any emotion.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yes. Oh man, you hit something right there. And because a lot of men is like, hey, this is what we feel for a moment. Is women will say, hey, I just want to know how you feel, right? And then the few times that we let them know because we're not happy with a situation, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I don't like that, right? And so it's just like, you really don't want to know how I feel. Like, that's what it feels like. And I think, yes, sometimes I think women may ask for certain things in terms of expression of emotions from men, not realizing that, hey, expression of emotions from anybody is not always a pleasant thing to be around.
Wow.
That's just what it is. Deal with it. Deal with it, right? Period. But I think there's also a truth about what they're saying in terms of a lot of times we're not examining the full spectrum of our emotions and talking about everything in there, not just this very narrow place where anger bubbles out and then we're just unfiltered saying stuff because we've been holding things in for weeks, if not months, if not years at times. That then comes out and it's completely like, and she's like, where did this come from? I'm confused. Like, I asked you about this and now I'm getting all of this stuff.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yes.
So the whole idea of repair now, and this is some of the work we do with a lot of the couples we work with, is just you really have to understand conflict is actually an opportunity to teach you that, okay, there's something going on here that we need to dig deeper into. And not just like figure out like, hey, what were the details of what it is we're arguing about? What I didn't say this. You said I said that, but I didn't say no, that's not what we're talking about. Like
Yeah.
going back and going back to the scene of the crime to figure out what was said when and what. No, that doesn't help anyone.
No.
To say, well, let's just get to the truth. And once we get to the truth of what we said, then we'll know what to do. It's like, no, that's not how we work as humans. As humans, we're not primarily cognitive beings. As humans, we're primarily emotional beings. We don't recognize that. We use our intelligence to justify our feelings a lot of the times. And so we don't understand that what makes sense to us doesn't make sense to our partner. And we think they're crazy because our emotions are driving our intelligent conversations, not realizing that, hold on, I'm talking to my wife and I think this makes a lot of sense and I'm being perfectly clear, but she doesn't understand my emotional world.
Mm.
Driving how I'm feeling,
Yeah. Yeah.
what I'm expressing.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand because I don't understand it, right? So I haven't done the work to sit down to be like, okay, cool, I'm angry. Why am I angry? What was going on inside of me that made me angry? And it's not about what she did or didn't do. It was about what was the feelings that was driving it. The primary emotions like sadness, abandonment, fear, shame. Understand, was there any of that going on there? Like, I'll take out emotion wheels and be like, hey, this is an emotion wheel. Let's go into different quadrants of this and like, what were you feeling here? Okay, not this quadrant. Okay, cool. Let's go here. Okay. Oh, somewhere here. All right. What was it? Okay, what word? What variation of sadness was going on here? Or what variation of feeling like my wife didn't show up for me or what didn't have my back? Okay, cool. All right. So was it that she really didn't have your back? Or in that moment, that's how you felt, right? So your wife said, hey, listen, we haven't had sex in a few weeks or in a few months or whatever it is. And she's like, hey, we're doing it tonight, whatever. Cool, cool, cool. And then you come home from work, you get the kids to bed, all like that. All right, cool, cool, cool. And then now you go in the bedroom and your wife's asleep. And you're like, you got man, like, no, I'm mad. But what did I feel before I felt mad?
Mm.
I probably felt sad because I was wanting to connect with her. I probably felt alone. I probably felt almost abandoned because, like, hey, when I got married to you, what I said was like, what I'm basically saying is that you're the only person who can fulfill me in this realm of sexuality. And when that doesn't happen, I don't have anywhere else to go. And when it doesn't happen in the frequency I like or whatever it is, it feels like you're not taking care of me in that area. So yes, I'm frustrated and I'm angry, but what I'm really feeling before all of that is I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling abandoned. Like you're abandoning me because I need you to nurture me in that way, and you're saying no or whatever. Or it looks like a no, but she fell asleep, right? She fell
Yeah.
asleep.
Yeah.
The feelings it engenders is real. That I felt abandoned
Wow.
by you, and so now the next day we're having an argument about the fact that you don't keep your word and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about that, man, like last night, I kind of felt sad and I kind of felt alone.
Man, I can't fix my mouth as a man to say I'm sad. Like every time you say it, I'm like, don't say you're sad. Stop saying don't say you're sad. You can't be sad. You can't express that. You cannot. You cannot express that. So you're just gonna have to bottle it up. I don't know, or just yell. How about that? How about start an argument tomorrow?
Exactly.
And you can yell at her and call her names because you can't say you're sad.
Right. And why can't we say we're sad?
It's not masculine. You can't be sad.
I'd be a man and be sad.
That's the identity.
Right. You as a man, you got maybe like 1 or 2 times in your whole life you can be sad.
That's it. And then and here's the bonus points. If you don't cry during those times, you're a real man. Like if somebody dies and you had no tears at the funeral, man. Big up.
Eyes may well up just a little bit, but it sucks right back
in. That's it. One thug tear come out. Like, yo, I want to be like him when he grow. I want to be as broken as that dude.
I want to be. That's exactly right. I want to be as broken as that dude. And so that's why when it comes to our emotions, one of the things we have to start doing as men is like paying attention, educating ourselves, read good books, start to pay attention to what our feelings are in terms of like what's my body feeling. Like I don't even know the words about what I'm feeling up here. What am I feeling in my body? Things like that, being aware of those things to start the conversation. But just talking to our wives about the fact that, hey, the truth is a lot of times I don't know how I feel. Like I really don't, a lot of times I don't feel anything. So when you're talking about the situation that I think should make me sad, I just don't feel anything. Right. And that makes me feel sad that I can't. And like I've been disconnected from so many of my emotions because I didn't do this to myself.
Yeah.
I was programmed this way. And it's so just talking about those things start to actually give us a little bit more insight. It opens the door slightly for us to start seeing our true selves inside when we even talk about the fact that we've been disconnected from our emotions.
I like that. I mean, you're giving gold here, man. You changed my whole life on this because I love your steps. Step 1 is to just admit that you don't know how you feel. You know what I mean? And then step 2, this is step you didn't really.
And let me say this real quick. For step 1, a lot of times a lot of men will be like, oh, I'm a man, I just don't feel a lot.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We define our manhood by our lack of feelings. And so that's the thing we can't do. Because if we do that, then we got no more steps.
Exactly. And I was just about to say step 2 is allow yourself to have feelings. Like like let it be okay. Like I wanted you to stop saying sad, but at the end of this episode, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm allowed to be sad. Like allow yourself to have more than one emotion, which is anger, brief moments of happiness, and then nothing. Like allow yourself that full spectrum, that full feelings wheel, because that's the 3rd step. Once you allow yourself to have the emotions, now you want to start identifying them, like practice, like figuring out, oh, this is what that emotion feels like in me. And it's crazy because there's people who's going to be 30, 40, 50 doing this for the first time. There's going to be people who are like, oh, this is what like anticipation feels like. I didn't know that's what it was. Like, but I've been feeling this every Christmas or whatever. So allow yourself to feel that emotion, even expressing to your wife. And I think it's important to express to her, I don't know how I feel. I think it's going to help her be patient with you because this is something for her, at least what society would say, typically, I would say, women are more in touch with their emotions and have the permission to express them, and have permission to have a wide range. So it may be frustrating for your wife. So if you let her know, hey, I'm having a hard time even having feelings. You want me to communicate them. I think that'll help her have patience, because we're like, oh, you're starting from behind the 8 ball. And so expressing that to that trusted person you have in your relationship, in your life, and then going through the feelings wheel and trying to practice identifying them. And then the last step is communicating that, right? Communication, which is not just yelling and just, but taking the time to identify, allow ourselves to feel it, and communicate it to whoever it is that we need to communicate. I think that is a better way of life than bottling emotions, imploding or exploding. Man, I thank you so much for explaining it all to me and taking me deep. We couldn't just stay in anger, because we see the way the game is set up for men to not be in touch with their emotions and the catastrophic effects. And the one way that we see it represented mainly is through anger and aggression. Right, high levels of anger and aggression.
And so we name the anger and the aggression as the problem, not recognizing that it's just a symptom.
It's just a symptom
of a larger problem.
I thought we were going to talk about the symptom the whole time, but you said, hey, listen, that's just a symptom. Let's go to the larger problem. And that's what we spent most of the time talking about. And I'm okay with that. Because I learned something as well.
Yeah, no, this was great, man. This was a great conversation.
Man, okay. Well, guys. Oh, do you have any books or resources you could plug yourself as well for couples together or men separately for themselves when it comes to emotional intelligence, which is our bigger conversation, or even anger, which is part of the conversation we had today?
Sure. So you can find us on authenticmarriages.com. And as I said, we do workshops, we do coaching groups, and a lot of the stuff we talked about today is one of many things we kind of deep dive into in those forums to help enrich your marriage. So definitely follow us there. We're on IG as well as Facebook at Authentic Marriages. But one book I would recommend as well, just to kind of I recommend this book, especially if you feel like anger is just a real problem. Like really bad things happen when you get angry. And you do need to kind of address the symptom first before you get into other stuff. Is the Anger Control Workbook by McKay and Rogers. So the Anger Control Workbook by McKay and Rogers. It should be on Amazon. And that's a good place to kind of like, if you really feel like your anger is just so explosive or issue, like, I need to attack this right now.
Yeah.
That's definitely one place I would direct folks to kind of start doing that journey. But understanding that, hey, even after I deal with the symptom, I got to deal with the problem.
No, I understand. When we made that clear here in today's episode. Okay, thank you for that resource. I'll be sure to put that and all the other resources in the show notes. I'll leave you guys with a quote that I found here, anonymous, but it says, anger is the deepest form of compassion. And I believe from our conversation that we had today, if we learn to utilize anger, it can become one of the many tools we have in our emotional tool belt, not just the only one, but we can have one of those emotional tools in our emotional belt to help us take action, right? Move forward and do the things we're supposed to do and enjoy life. All right, folks, thank you guys so much for joining us for this podcast episode. Remember, if you enjoy it or if you think someone else needs to hear this, which I think you do, be sure to share it with a friend. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Be blessed. Peace.